Hey everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm so glad you're here. I'm sorry I haven't been really good about getting content out as regularly as I would like. I hope that you've been enjoying the guests I've been having on the Perfect Prey podcast. And I am actually probably going to be moving over some of those guests into my community and having them as guest speakers in the inner circle community that I offer. So, anyway, if you're looking for more information on that, please go to my website and you will find it there. Today, I wanted to talk about parental alienation because I always want to go back to this idea of understanding exactly why you believe that you've been alienated by that abusive parent. This is what the abusive parent does. I totally agree. I'm in no way debating that. As a matter of fact, I have many books on parental alienation because back when I first realized what was going on in my own family system, I knew because I knew what had happened, by the way, to my abuser's family system himself. So, in that family system, there was one person who was exerting power and control over the entire family system and had pulled the children away from their father. So, I want to be clear that I do understand why we call it that. The terminology works perfectly, and the research that some people in the parental alienation industry have done have been amazing. Like in this academic world, they have done really great, like longitudinal studies on children who have these internalizing and externalizing behaviors. I just don't like to call it that because sadly it's co-opted all the time in family court. And it's the only diagnosis that judges can make and lawyers can advise judges to make. So once a protective parent shows up and wants to protect their children from an abuser, or maybe a child is afraid to go to the abuser's house, once that happens, sadly, lots of times protective parents are accused of alienation. So I'd really like to distill it. I really want to talk about how this is about attachment. So every child needs to grow up in a home where they feel securely attached to a healthy, safe parent. The problem is that in these family systems, children start off that way very often with the protective parent, but slowly and certainly initially, over time, they begin to recognize that that other parent, that the love is conditional. They will only be loved if they behave a certain way. And so there is an understanding, even if that parent is a lot of fun, and if that parent is not as much fun, if they are more angry and aggressive, children immediately can get that intention. Think about children who grow up in overtly abusive homes, right? Where there's one parent or both parents who are, really harmful to that child. They're putting that child down, telling them they're dumb. Think about a child who's being physically disciplined, which is abuse, by the way. Those are children who learn that they are never safe, not with one parent or the other sometimes, sadly. I'm talking about a situation where it's really hard to tell because there is no physical violence. So, just like in your situation, maybe you suffered some pushing or shoving, or maybe you suffered physical violence, but that's not something that occurs regularly. And in the home, you're regulating your behavior, you're walking on eggshells. Children learn to do the same thing. They are learning that one parent is not safe, and therefore the attachment that they appear to have is not legitimate. It's not safe, right? And then their attachment to you is often threatened by the abuser, threatened in a way that they don't even realize it's happening in you. Oh, I just got on off a call today with a mom. I'm like, no, no, no. This started as soon as your children were born. The abuser knew exactly what matters to you most and began to diminish you in your children's lives in very covert ways. It didn't have to be mom is lazy or dad is lazy. It could be something as simple as, hmm, gosh, mom's working again, huh? She works a lot, doesn't she? Yeah, that's too bad. Let me make her dinner. You see how I went from covertly diminishing in some way, but then making myself out to be the victim and also the hero. This is what abusers do. The dynamic is really insidious and also extremely nuanced, and also, I would say, manipulative, right? There's a lot of gaslighting going on here, different than manipulation too. But really, the child's reality gets really slanted. They think someone's safe, then that someone's not safe. Then the person they thought was safe is no longer safe. And there's a lot of push and pull and back and forth. It's so confusing for children. So I would love it if everyone started calling this a malicious fracturing of attachment. Abusers have intent. They are maliciously fracturing that attachment, that secure attachment to a safe, protective parent. And they work on it pretty diligently. They're like, they got a little drill or a little hammer, and they're trying to crack through a foundation of attachment. And our job, every time our children come back to us, is to keep fortifying it, to keep reigniting it, to do the work we need to do intentionally. Because if you don't realize it's happening and you're not working intentionally, then sadly, it can be eroded pretty quickly. So it's up to us to see it, to know it's happening, and then to work on it really intentionally. I hope that's helpful, everyone. And please remember to subscribe. And I do hope you have a good day.